Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into some of the most urgent challenges facing India right now, everything from digital threats to a full-blown environmental crisis. But we're also going to look at a really powerful idea for a solution, one that's coming from a place you might not expect. So let's jump right in.
Let's start with a question that, honestly, should probably worry all of us. In a world where your face, your voice, your entire life is just a bunch of data points online, how do you protect yourself when that data can be turned into a weapon against you? What's really private anymore?
And look, this isn't some far-off sci-fi idea. It's happening right now. It's a real and growing threat that's creating real victims in a new kind of crime, one that completely blurs the line between what happens online and what is deeply, deeply personal.
Let's take a look at a very recent example. Payo Gaming, who's a huge creator on social media, suddenly found herself in the middle of an absolute nightmare. A fake, AI-generated video using her face started spreading like wildfire online. It got so bad she had to file a cybercrime complaint. This case just throws a spotlight on a terrifying new reality. Your digital self can be stolen and twisted for who knows what reason, causing just immense distress.
But here's where it gets even more disturbing. The technology, yeah, that's one part of it. But the source we looked at points to something deeper, the casual cruelty of people who share these fake videos, who ask for links. It's what the source calls social decay, this idea that violating someone's privacy has just become another form of entertainment.
Okay, so let's shift gears now. From the threats we face in the digital world to a crisis that affects every single one of us in the physical world, the environment. We're talking about the very air we need to breathe to stay alive.
Just look at this number for a second, 600. That was the Air Quality Index, or AQI, recorded in Delhi not too long ago. Now, to put that into perspective for you, any reading over 50, is considered unhealthy. So we're not just talking about smoggy air here. We're talking about air that is dangerously toxic. And somehow, this has become the new normal for millions of people. And this is where things just get, well, really confusing. There seems to be this major disconnect. On one hand, you have the stated goal, fight air pollution. But then the action taken is banning doors in restaurants. The goal is to protect the environment, but then 45,000 vital mangrove trees get cut down for a highway. The goal is to preserve natural heritage, but development gets the green light in the ancient Aravalli mountain range. It just doesn't add up.
Things are bad when this level of concern goes completely mainstream. Even prominent media figures are sounding the alarm. This passionate plea from Arnab Goswami shows that the fear of becoming an environmentally destroyed nation is now a huge mainstream worry. It's a desperate cry to save what's left.
So what do you think happens when the quality of life starts to drop this dramatically? Well, people who have the means to leave, they do. In just the last 5 years, 900,000 Indians have given up their citizenship. The source we looked at doesn't just call this a brain drain, but a financial drain, because you have high net worth individuals packing up and leaving, looking for cleaner air and a better life somewhere else.
Now, let's zoom out a bit, because so many of these problems are really just symptoms of a much bigger structural issue: staggering economic inequality. It's truly a story of two completely different realities that are somehow coexisting in the very same country.
Okay, so before we get into the really mind-blowing numbers, it's super important we understand this one difference. Income is the money that flows in, right? Like your salary. But wealth is what you have. It's the total value of everything you own. And when you start looking at how wealth is distributed, that's when you see the true scale of the problem. All right, get ready for this, because these numbers from the World Inequality Report are just staggering. In India, the top 1% of the population holds 40% of the entire nation's wealth. Meanwhile, the bottom 50%, that's half the country, they own just 4%. If you look at the top 10% combined, they control more than 2/3 of all the wealth in the country. Now, if all those percentages are kind of hard to wrap your head around, the source gives this brilliant, simple analogy. Picture a room with 100 kids and 100 chocolates. You'd think everyone gets one, right? Well, in this reality, the top 10 kids at the front of the room get 75 of those chocolates. And the 50 kids at the very back, they have to share just 2 chocolates between all of them.
And this massive inequality, it's not just about money. It has a direct, real-world impact on that environmental crisis we were just talking about. The wealthiest 10% of emitters are responsible for 3/4 of all carbon emissions. Meanwhile, the bottom 50%, the very people who are most affected by climate change, they contribute only 3% of the emissions.
So, after laying out all of these huge, daunting challenges, you might be feeling a little overwhelmed. I get it. But the source doesn't just diagnose the problems, it also starts to explore what some potential solutions could be. It argues that for a problem this big, the answer might be surprisingly straightforward.
So, what does a real path forward even look like? Well, the report suggests going back to some core basics. Things like universal access to education, healthcare, and nutrition for everyone, a social safety net with pensions for the elderly, a progressive tax on the super rich to actually tackle that huge wealth gap, and of course, ensuring equal pay for equal work.
But, policy changes are one thing. The source points to a solution that's maybe even more fundamental, and it's captured perfectly in this viral song lyric from rapper Dan Danioliwala. His song talks about everything from pollution to corruption, and it ends with this really powerful line. The ultimate solution he's suggesting isn't to just sit back and wait for change. It's to demand it, to raise your voice.
And really, that brings us right back to the beginning. Whether we're talking about standing up to digital harassment, demanding cleaner air, or calling for a much fairer economy, the message from these sources seems pretty clear. Real change only begins when people stop being silent. So the question it leaves us with is this: if silence is what allows all these problems to grow, could your voice truly be the beginning of the solution?